For dream flights to accomplish everything that we have done has taken the commitment and dedication of many people. Each of our pilots bring a varied level of experience from military, civilian, and corporate flying. The responsibility of making sure that they are all proficient in the Stearman biplane falls on one man's shoulders. His name is Darren Bond, but we call him the Professor.
Our passengers that we fly at Dream Flights are a national treasure, and they deserve not only the best equipment that we can provide, but the best pilots that we can provide. There's a sign above the door that we put up above the door. It says, "Through these doors pass the finest, safest Stearman pilots on the planet." And that was our goal here, and it's still our goal here, and it's true. When you look at Dream pilots, the ones who are out there flying Stearmans right now, you will not find a safer Stearman pilot than our Dream pilots are. You won't find one more competent and more able with his aircraft to do our mission. And that was proved out during Operation September Freedom as well. I spent 3 years as a T-37 instructor at Laughlin Air Force Base, Del Rio, Texas. I really enjoy instructing, and you know, there's just a very comfortable environment for me. I enjoyed taking somebody who didn't know how to fly at all and giving them basically a pair of wings. That was very satisfying. Darryl was talking about Operation September Freedom. I think at the time he had less than a half a dozen pilots, and really only 3 or 4 that were real active pilots. But Darryl had visions of doing this big operation and going up to as many as 20 pilots or 30 pilots, and then flying as many as 6 or 8 airplanes. And you know, and my brain starts running. I said, how in the world are you going to train that many pilots? And you know, and that's when the idea got hatched. You know, I had the background in the training world. You know, training, you know, that's been a part of my DNA for a long, long time. And then I had the Stearman background too. And then we had this airplane show up here that wasn't ready to go to work. But you know, I looked at it and I said, this is a trainer. You know, we could turn this airplane into a trainer. And that's when Darryl and I sat down and I said, Darryl, if we pull one airplane, this one that's sitting right here that you just brought from Florida, put it in good working order, and we designate that the trainer, you may have a formula for success. What the trainer did was it kept the riskier flying away from the working airplanes. And it allowed us to do real training without the hazard of doing any kind of undue wear and tear or undue damage to a working airplane. And the way I describe that is, Darryl says, the rubber you have on the tires on the trainer, that's for your pilots, that's for training. The rubber that's on the tires for the working airplane, save that for the veterans. So I told Darryl, I said, I'm going to build a training program for you. And I know how training programs work. I've been dealing with them forever, but this was a unique situation because the pilots that Darryl is talking about come from a wide variety of backgrounds. Some of them had Stearman experience, some of them had none. Some of the pilots that he wanted to bring into the program didn't have any tailwheel training at all. So we had to build a syllabus that would accommodate everyone. So that's what we did. I sat down and I built a syllabus that was flexible enough so I could take a high-time experienced Stearman pilot in here and give him training, currency, evaluation, or I could take somebody with no experience at all, even experience in tailwheel, and give them training. And the flexibility of the syllabus allowed us to do that. And the end product out of this syllabus, at least this was the goal, was to have all of our pilots trained with a common background. Every pilot that we have here that graduates Dream Flights University has had similar experiences. They have all gone through the same training. They have all had to pass the same evaluations. So when they're out there flying with each other, there is a commonality. It's a little hard to explain, but it even becomes its own language. A dream flight pilot, now that has gone through this university, has a common experience with any other dream flight pilot, and they can talk about the maneuvers we do, how we practice, the dream flight specific training that is done here. You know, they can talk about issues or problems they're having, with certain realms of flight that all of the pilots have experience and have training in. And I think it has been so valuable, and I think if you talk to Darrell, he will agree that training has been valuable. If you look at Operation September Freedom, like I said, we graduated 21 pilots. We had 6 airplanes all across the country. We flew almost 1,000 World War II veterans. And to do that in a Stearman, and I don't think anybody counted up the number of hours we flew, but it was a lot of hours, 300 different cities. To fly that many flights and those varying scenarios with 21 pilots and have zero safety incidents, 0 accidents. We didn't hurt anything. We flew every single veteran, every World War II veteran we flew in a very, very safe manner. It was 100% success rate. And if you talk to pilots, instructors that have experience with Stearmans, that's almost impossible. You can go back to World War II when this airplane was used for military training. The accident rate during military training with Stearman was horrendous. It was, you know, the conditions were a little bit different, but the Stearman is an airplane that has a reputation. It's easy to fly in the air. It's very unforgiving sometimes on the ground. So it has a higher accident rate statistically than a lot of other airplanes. It's challenging to handle mainly on the ground. Anybody that's flown a Stearman or has Stearman experience knows that. Even people that have not flown Stearmans look at a Stearman with a certain amount of trepidation. So if you were to approach any of those people and say, we're going to fly 875 veterans in a 3-month period of time and we're going to do it with a perfect record, they'd say, impossible, can't be done. Well, we did it. And I am so proud of every single pilot that came through here. And I'm proud of Darrell because Darrell saw the value of a training program like we put together here. Darrell enabled us to put together this university, and then Darrell backed it 100%. Any pilot that comes to fly for dream flights has to come through this university. So they have to go through the program. Now, sometimes the training lasts weeks and sometimes it lasts a couple of days. It depends on the ability and the background of the pilot, but every one of them graduates from this university with that common background, with the commonness of the maneuvers we do, the evaluation we do, and how we set them up to be the safest dream pilot possible. Anytime you get into a airplane that has a history, a wartime history to it, there's a feeling about it that's just hard to describe. So a couple things about that first Stearman flight. One, I describe it as the difference between riding in your car and driving a motorcycle. The open cockpit feeling, the wind going by, your headset, the sounds of it. You can hear the engine from the time that it starts up and until you shut it down. All of that is much more noticeable than it is in airplanes with enclosed cockpits. One thing people don't think about with a Stearman, and this is noticeable for anyone that flies in a Stearman for the first time. You can smell things. You smell things in a Stearman that you don't smell in other airplanes. It starts with the engine start. You start up the engine and you can smell the fuel as it's starting to be released from the exhaust. There's a certain smell there that is very unique. And the sound combined with that smell is very unique. And then once you get in the air, it's just amazing. If you take an early morning flight in a Stearman, you can smell the bacon and eggs cooking down there in the neighborhood. And I'm being absolutely truthful. Whatever's happening down on the ground, you experience in a Stearman. And I'm not sure I've flown any other airplane where that experience is quite there like that. But if it's happening on the ground, you can smell it in the Stearman. And then the Stearman, you know, it flies so slow and it's so noticeable from the ground. I can't tell you how many times that I have flown over a neighborhood or something like that, and you can see kids running out into the street and running along the sidewalk, following the airplane, pointing up at the sky. It's just, it's a unique experience, both from piloting it, riding in it, and then even being on the ground, looking up and seeing a Stearman fly over. And that's something Stearman pilots know about. It's called the Stearman smile. And if you haven't heard of the Stearman smile, it's a unique thing too, and you don't have to do anything to make it happen other than give somebody a ride in a Stearman. But every time you give somebody a ride in a Stearman, they come down and there's this big smile on their face. And it has to do with that unique experience that we talked about. You know, there's the sound, there's the feeling, the vibration, the smells in the air, the freedom, as if, you know, you're not in an airplane, you're flying, you know. And but I have never, not once, and I've given hundreds and hundreds of rides in Stearman, never had a bad experience with somebody flying in Stearman.
We know why Darren always has a Stearman smile. His passion for flying and teaching others, meticulous attention to detail, and unique communication skills have and will continue to make sure that Dream Flights operates in the safest way possible.
Thanks for watching this episode of Dream Flight Journeys. Subscribe, like, share, and hit the little bell so you get notified when we post the next video. If you have a question about Dream Flights or want to tell us of a veteran in your life, comment below and we'll respond in future videos.